rolling part of it. So again, thank you for joining us and apologize for the hiccups. Technology is wonderful, but there are oftentimes kinks and things we got to work out. And I'm glad you joined us today for what is the first of a 4-part series on Bismarck's livable housing series. And today's event is about staying independent at home. I think most of you may know that AARP for more than 60 years has been working to promote the health and well-being of older Americans and North Dakotans. We do that work each and every day here in North Dakota, and we've taken these events online as it offers us a way to continue to safely connect, share information, and stay engaged until we can get back to safely doing in-person events that I know a number of you probably miss, and so do we. We decided to do a housing-focused series in Bismarck as we learned through the pandemic that more and more individuals are thinking earlier and earlier about their potential long-term care needs. And it also is going to offer us an opportunity to uncover additional information about what you might find available in Bismarck and the Bismarck area. So if you're not from Bismarck, some of it will be relevant. Some of it is going to be Bismarck centric. And afterwards, we can try and point you in the direction of additional resources as well. The other reason that we made this a lot of Bismarck focus is some of you may be aware, some of you may not. The city of Bismarck recently became and enrolled the first North Dakota community that is enrolled in AARP's network of age-friendly states and communities. There's over 430 in the country. Bismarck is the first in North Dakota. It's a program that was founded in 2012, and it encourages states, cities, towns, and counties to prepare for the rapid aging of the United States and North Dakota population. As part of that, going through the process, the community becomes a better place to live for residents of all ages. And so we created these events as a forum to share and collect information, in addition to share information about housing and staying independent at home, but to share just general information about how to make Bismarck great for all ages. We do want today to be interactive. We don't want it to be just a one-sided conversation. There's lots of ways you can be engaged. Some of you, thank you, have turned on your camera, and we encourage you to do that. That's really helpful for the speakers to get that feedback as part of it. And as I mentioned, there will be a Q&A. But one of the other ways is we're going to do a poll. Janelle is going to put up a poll right now. And the question that we want to know from you today is, how important is it for you to be able to live independently in your own home as you age? And so there should be 5 options in front of you: extremely important, very important, somewhat important, not very important, or not important at all. You can just check the one, use your mouse or your finger if you're on an iPad or an Android handheld device to select your option, and then there's a submit at the bottom. As you're completing that poll, I want to make a couple of quick reminders. Again, Zoom allows you to share your camera. Thank you for those of you who have done that. We do ask you to leave yourself on mute until we get to the question and answer program at the designated time. It just helps eliminate some of those background noises that can be distracting for others and our presenters. Additionally, we'd encourage you, while we are going to have a designated Q&A time, to ask those questions at any point in time in the chat feature. There's a little button on the bottom of your screen that says chat. It should look like a word bubble. You select that, it should open a bar on the right-hand side, and then you can type in your question in the chat bar. That just allows us to make sure we have a menu of what those questions are, and we'll get to as many of them as we can when it's the appropriate time. With that, enough with the housekeeping, enough with the hiccups on technology. We're super delighted to have 2 distinguished guests with us today. Melinda Lapp is with us. Melinda is the Bismarck Area Home and Community-Based Services Coordinator for the North Dakota Department of Aging. Hi, Melinda.
Good morning.
And then also with us is Mike Shosey. He might be a familiar face to some of you. Mike is the Executive Director of North Dakota Assistive. Good to see you, Mike.
Greetings. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. We're going to start with Melinda today. And while she's getting her screen ready, I want to just quickly remind you again to keep yourself on mute until the Q&A and put those questions in chat. And before I officially turn it over to Melinda, as she's doing that, Janelle, can you show us the results of the poll, please? So We asked you how important it is for you to be able to live independently at home as you age. As you should be able to see in the pop-up box on your screen, 60% of you said it was extremely important. Another 33% of you said it was very important. And 7% of you said it was somewhat important. In other words, in total, 100% of you think it's important in some way, shape, or form. 93% of you think it's very or extremely important. You are in the right place. Melinda, I think you've got some excellent information to start, and Mike as well. With that, Melinda's got her slides ready. She looks ready to rock and roll. Melinda, quick sound check. You're good to go?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
You're ready to rock and roll. Take it away, Melinda.
All right. Thank you, Josh. And I'm happy to be here with you guys today to talk about home and community-based services. HCBS services are services that are funded by both Medicaid, SPED, and expanded SPED programs. They are programs that are funded through federal and state dollars, and they primarily serve older individuals or individuals with a physical disability. The individual must meet a functional and financial eligibility, both of those, and they may have a client cost share related to their income. So when we're looking at the program and service focus, it's on the consumer's needs. And the consumer has the choice of services based on their eligibility. They have a choice of who provides their care from a qualified service provider list. And our goal is always to maintain as much independence as possible in the least restrictive setting. So a lot of what we do is case management, and case management is to assist a functionally impaired individual to achieve and maintain independent living in the living arrangement of their choice until it is no longer appropriate or reasonably possible to maintain or meet the individual's needs in that setting. In order to facilitate independent living, the case manager enables the elderly or disabled person or family to explore and understand options, make appropriate choices, solve problems, and it provides a link between community resources, qualified service providers, and the client accessing needed services. In addition, the case manager will advocate for and promote client-focused systems service delivery. They exercise an awareness of the larger target population in need, and they exercise prudence in each referral to link with resources and services, utilizing those services and resources effectively. So the programs and services that we have are expanded SPED, Medicaid State Plan, and the HCBS Medicaid Waiver. Part of our role is to also administer personal care in a basic care setting. When we're looking at service options under the expanded SPED program, those options may include adult daycare, adult foster care, chore services, emergency response system, environmental modification, family home care, home delivered meals, homemaker services, non-medical transportation, respite care services, and of course, HCBS case management. Under the SPED program, we have the additional services of extended personal care services and nurse education. And under Medicaid waiver, we have additional services of adult residential, community support, community transition, companionship services, family personal care, residential habilitation, specialized equipment, supervision, supported employment, and transitional living services. Our Medicaid State Plan program basically focuses on personal care services. These are services that provide assistance with ADLs and IADLs. The need may be intermittent or on a daily basis. It does complement the informal care network and is not limited to a target population. So we can provide services to individuals that may have a diagnosis of an intellectual disability, a developmental disability, or a mental illness. However, we cannot duplicate case management. So if those individuals have services under a different program, we would not be able to serve them because we can't duplicate case management. Under Medicaid State Plan personal care services, we would not primarily look at homemaker services. We could utilize a different program for those specific tasks. So when we're looking at functional eligibility, it's based on the assessment of ADLs or IADLs. ADLs include the areas of bathing, dressing, eating, toileting, transferring, continence, and mobility inside. IADLs includes the areas of meal prep, laundry, shopping, housekeeping, med management, mobility outside the home, transportation, communication, and money management. When we look at ADLs and IADLs, we are giving them a point value based on how difficult it is for the individual. So when we look at functional eligibility for expanded SPED, we're looking at an individual who is not severely impaired in the ADLs specific to toileting, transferring, or eating. The consumer does have an impairment in 3 of 4 IADLs, specifically looking at meal prep, housekeeping, managing medications, and doing their laundry. Or the individual may have a health, welfare, and safety need that requires supervision or a structured environment. And under the expanded SPED program, we can serve individuals whose impairment is related to a mental illness. So financial eligibility for expanded SPED requires the individual to be receiving SSI, or they're at or below the SSI income level. And that individual is receiving Medicaid, or they may be eligible for Medicaid, and they wouldn't apply for that benefit. Functional eligibility for SPED, we're assessing for an individual to be impaired in 2 ADLs or 4 IADLs, scoring 4 or more points if the person lives alone, or 6 or more points if they live with someone. The impairments need to last or be expected to last 3 months or longer. The impairments cannot be due to an intellectual disability or a mental illness, so that's different than expanded SPED. And the case manager has assessed that this individual is not eligible for Medicaid waivered services. When we're looking at the financial eligibility for SPED, we are completing a financial assessment. This is done with the individual both at the initial review and annually thereafter. We do require verification of income and assets, and we look at 2 sliding fee scales when we're assessing assets and income. Schedule 1 allows for 0 to almost $25,000 in income or in assets, and Schedule 2 allows for $25,000 to $50,000. So if the individual has an excess of $50,000 in assets, that individual would not be eligible for our SPED services. When we're looking at income, we do take into consideration medical deductions in determining a potential cost share for the individual. So Medicaid State Plan Personal Care Services has 3 different levels. Level A requires an individual to be impaired in 1 ADL, or to be impaired in 3 of 4 IADLs, though the same ones that we discussed earlier, the meal prep, housekeeping, med management, and laundry. Level B, the individual must meet the criteria for level A, as well as meet a nursing facility level of care. And level C, the person is impaired in 5 ADLs. They meet that nursing facility level of care, and we do seek out prior approval from the state agency. Under level C, we are not able to allow any time for homemaker tasks. We would access a different program for those services when needed. So Medicaid waiver functional eligibility requires the individual to be 65 years of age or older. If they're under 65, they do need to meet the Social Security disability criteria, or they've been determined to be physically disabled by the Medicaid state review team. Under this program, they also have to meet that nursing facility level of care. The impairments cannot be due to an intellectual disability or a mental illness. They do need to live in their own home, a family member's home, or it can be in a community setting, such as adult foster care or an adult residential facility. And under this program, the individual needs to receive the service at least one time per month. The financial eligibility for Medicaid state plan and Medicaid waiver is the same. The consumer is on Medicaid or they're eligible for Medicaid. They may have a recipient liability under Medicaid that would be applied to the cost of these services. The recipient liability is based on the individual's income and their medical expenses. Medicaid eligibility is not determined by the HCBS case manager. It is determined by the Economic Assistance Unit, as well as that recipient liability piece. That is determined by the Economic Assistance Unit. So when we're looking at setting up services for an individual, we do provide them a list of qualified service providers. And the QSPs are a mix of agencies and independent contractors. They've met the criteria that the state agency has established. So there are an approved list of providers to receive funds from the state. The consumer always retains the decision-making power over who provides their care, as long as that caregiver is enrolled as a QSP. If they have private pay services in place and they want their caregiver, they want to maintain their current caregiver, we could have that caregiver enroll as a qualified service provider and then pay them through one of our programs potentially. So one of the things that we also offer is a higher rate of pay. This is available for some of our services to providers that may need to travel into rural areas, which allows more service availability across the state. When a referral is being made, that referral is made through the ADRL or the Aging and Disability Resource Link. An individual would contact the ADRL utilizing the number that's on your screen, or they can email the ADRL through carechoice@nd.gov. There are intake workers available to complete that formal intake. They would ask a variety of questions and make a preliminary decision as to whether or not they think the person may be eligible for HCBS services. At that point, they would send that referral to the supervisor of the territory the individual resides in. The supervisor would assign that referral to one of their case managers, who has 5 days to make a telephone contact with the individual with the intention of completing an assessment with them within 10 days. And those are business days. So a contact within 5 business days and a home assessment within 10 business days. So that's a quick overview of HCBS services, and I'll be available after the program to answer any questions that you may have.
Wow, Melinda, some really great information and that resource there at the end. Thank you so much. For those of you that were trying to follow along and help out, we did record the program, as I think you may have noticed at the beginning, and we'll plan to share a link afterwards if you want to go back and rewatch and listen to Melinda's presentation. We'll be glad to share that afterwards. I see there's at least one question in the chat, and we'd encourage you to continue to put those questions in chat or jot them down. We're going to get to questions, but we're going to hold on them for Melinda just yet, because I want to make sure we can get in Mike's presentation as well and cover. He may answer some of the questions that may come up related as well. But before I want to get to Mike, I want to again give you a chance to participate and be engaged. And so we have a second poll question for you. And the second poll question should pop up on your screen. As it pops up on your screen, I'll read it off. It says, what do you need to stay in your home longer? We offered you a few options, whether it's information, technology, repairs, in-home care, or other. We were hoping to make this open-ended so we could have you type it. And if you have specific other things, we'd encourage you to type those into the chat so we could capture them as part of it. I think it's important. Another quick announcement is after you voted and hit submit, when Janelle shows the poll results, if for some reason it doesn't disappear on your screen, you can go ahead and press the X. There's an X button in the upper right-hand corner. That should close it out for you. I know at least one person that was having it still up there for them as it was going. So hopefully you've had a chance to respond to the poll. And while you're finishing responding to that poll, I want to introduce a friend and former colleague, Mike Shosey. Mike is with North Dakota Assistive. Mike, it's good to see you today, and we appreciate you joining us. So,
George
Mike,
and Barb and Wendy and Doreen and the gang.
lots of faces that'll be familiar to Mike. And as we continue to do this, I'm sure they'll become familiar to Melinda as well. As part of it, as Mike's getting his screen ready, I'm going to ask Janelle to share those poll results for us again, if we've got them in. So give you just a second. Question of what do you need to stay in your home longer? Thank you for responding. This is great. So we have a little bit of a mixed bag. 42% of you said in-home care. I think the presentation we just heard from Melinda should give you a really good opportunity to get some options for you there. Some of you, 25% of you said technology. So when we talk about this, hey, we hit the top two today, and we're about to talk about the technology piece of it too, as part of it. 25%, another 8% said repairs and information, and 17% said other. For those of you who put other, if you can for me, seriously, this is very helpful information and feedback for us. If you could put what that other is in the chat, that would be really helpful for us to collect as we continue to work with the city of Bismarck and other communities across North Dakota about the challenges you're facing in terms of staying independent at home. So with that, it looks like Mike's got his screen ready to go. He already did a sound check with us. So I think you're good, Mike. I'm going to hop off camera and going to let you take it away for a few minutes.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much for having us today. Like Josh said, I'm Mike Shosey with North Dakota Assistive. And what we do is we help people find assistive technology that helps them stay at home, function as best they can. We help people of all ages, all incomes, across the spectrum of disabilities. But this aging world, this aging population is something that we are increasingly becoming aware of and seeing more and more clients about. So what is assistive technology? Any item, piece of equipment, software program, product system that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of persons with disabilities. A lot of words. Here's what it means. Any device that helps someone accomplish a task that would otherwise be difficult. So we all use AT in some way, shape, or form. And when I started about 1.5 years here, one of the consultants who'd been there forever put it to me this way, and I thought it was a really good example of what assistive technology can be, how simple it can be, and to help understand what it means for people dealing with something. So here you have a salt and a pepper shaker, and you can see that they're exactly alike. So someone with low vision is going to grab one and not know the difference between the salt and the pepper. So a little assistive technology could help make a difference. What might that be in this instance? Go buy new salt and pepper shakers? Maybe. My wife has one with Snoopy and Woodstock, and you'd probably be able to tell the difference. But here, we might suggest just using a rubber band. And so you wrap the rubber band around the salt, and then when someone that can't see well grabs the salt shaker, that rubber band, simple device, becomes assistive technology. Now, we don't help people find a whole lot of rubber bands, but we do help them find other technologies that help them stay at home. So I'm going to go through a few of the devices that are common in areas that we work through, and then I'll talk a little bit about the programs that we operate within those areas so you can get a feel for how you might be able to take advantage of some of those things. So we do a lot of work in alerting and notification systems. These get more and more complex as time goes on, not necessarily to use, but their abilities are more complex. A lot of them are tied to cell phones. A lot of them are tied to smart devices or watches, those sorts of things. We also have some available that are landline specific. They don't have fees that go along with them. And there are some people that just flat out don't want to use a smartphone yet. So there are systems to keep track of people who are wandering, and basically also for peace of mind for people who are caregiving for them to know where they at. Again, very popular items that we help people find and find the best fit for. Emergency alert devices, that Freedom Alert, which is the bigger one on the right, is tied to a landline as well. So that, again, that's one of those panic buttons. You'd wear that piece, the smaller piece around your neck. If you fall or if you need help, push a button. Freedom Alert would have the ability to have 4 people designated in it before it would call 911. So it would reach out to 4 people that we have programmed into it before it would go to 911. So we're not immediately going to 911 with that response. Again, we do a lot of work in this area. Communications is a big piece of what we deal with. So we help people find phones that work best for them. That CapTel one you can see is talk to text, but we also have amplified phones. We have phones that increase the volume from the talking end. That little gadget on the left-hand side is it Bluetooths with a cell phone, and it amplifies the sound from the cell phone. So if you know somebody who likes to use their cell phone, but it doesn't quite get loud enough for them to hear, that is just an extra little gadget you carry with, and it's boom. It's crazy how some of these things work and how loud they actually get. But that is what that one does, is it connects Bluetooth with a cell phone. When we were dealing with the world of COVID, one of the things that surprised me the most, I think, in terms of the people who called us during that time, was how much hearing became an emphasis for people. And so we heard a lot about communication, right? And we heard a lot about isolation. But we ended up seeing a lot of people who were dealing with hearing loss. And probably the more frustrating people in that hearing loss conversation was the spouse or the caregiver of the person who had the hearing loss, more so than the person who was dealing with it themselves. So if we go back here, the amplified phones became very popular. That hear all piece, again, that cell phone piece, some people found that a little bit clunky, and I have a little bit of story. But these 2 pieces are probably the most common that we give out when we're dealing with hearing loss. The one on the right is called a pocket talker. It's a little amplification device. It fits in your pocket, hence the name. And you can throw on headphones. Now there are those big clunky headphones there, but you can plug in any headphone into the device. And it's a directional microphone that you can crank up. It changes the tone, it changes the volume. And so it's really helpful, especially in crowd situations. We talk to people who like to do like card games and those sorts of things that have a hard time listening to conversations. That device is an incredible device to help with that situation. And then probably the most common device that we have loaned out to people and help people get recently is this TV sound box, and that's on the left. And what it does is it plugs into the back of the TV. You can see there's a little base, and then the top part lifts off, kind of like an old school boom box. And you set it next to your chair, and it amplifies the sound of the TV. So one example I like to use about why this is good is my parents, both had hearing loss issues, so they bought those headsets. And they would sit in the living room watching the same TV show. Both of them have their headsets on. So they'd be in the same room, but technically a million miles away, not communicating with each other. A little story about a couple that came in. This is probably working on 4 months ago now. They came in and he was an old farmer dealing with hearing loss. His wife was frustrated, so we had to find something to help him out. We did try to set him up with one of these cell phone devices. He hated it. It was another thing that he had to carry around. So he had borrowed it, and I'll talk a little bit about how that works in a bit. Didn't like it. We let him borrow a pocket talker, hated it. Again, it was another thing that he had to carry around. Although he did take it to church one day and said that it could be a device to help him get back into going to church, because one of the frustrations that he had at church was all the sound from the people sitting next to him he wasn't able to hear. But hated it, didn't like it. came back. How about this? So we sent him home with this TV sound box, and it wasn't 3 days, and his spouse sent us a note, or actually she left us a voicemail crying about how it was the first time in years they've sat in the same room and watched TV together and could also communicate. So you just never know what that little device is going to be that makes a big difference in somebody's life. And that one was just helping them watch TV. Okay, so moving on from that, we also deal with in-speech amplification. So a moment ago, we talked about the speech on the hearing end. This would be for people who have low voice. Maybe they're dealing with Parkinson's, maybe ALS, those sorts of things, and their voices, they're losing their voice. So there's phones, there are microphones that can boom the voice and help improve that as well. We work in lighting and magnification, and really this is an entire vision world that we deal with, low vision. So we have all sorts of devices that people can use. And there's an amazing amount of stuff that's available on a smart home device, or I mean a smartphone and or an iPad that used to be fee associated with those things, but now they're just free apps that you can put on your phone and use that are incredibly helpful for vision assistance. Medication management. So people that are starting to suffer from dementia, this is a really big item that we help people find that helps keep them at home. So if you start to think about the stress of having to worry about somebody taking their medication on time, taking too much, taking too little, those sorts of things. What this MedReady does is it works on a timer and an alarm. So you see, you fill the trays with the medication and it locks. So nobody can get into it, and then it'll spin and an alarm will go off. And then there's a white door you can see on that blue piece that is actually the top. That is, when that alarm goes off, it opens that up, or you can slide that open at that point in time. Otherwise, it's locked until then. Person can grab out their medication. So alarm, only access to one little part of that tray. When it closes again, it locks, and then you can't get in it again until the alarm goes off again. So it's really cool and really can help ease some minds for people taking medication at home. And then we are emerging into this smart home world that is, we're only touching the surfaces on what we can do with smart home technology. A little base, an Amazon Echo, a Google Home, you name it. You can even get a little Amazon Dot that they're all under, or that one anyway is under $100 these days. You can tie just about anything to it. In our showroom in Bismarck, we have a faucet that you can turn on and off with your voice. You can ask the faucet to fill up the amount of water you want. We have fans, we have blinds for windows. There's a thermostat as an example here. The thing on the far right is a lock for a door. So somebody with limited mobility could use their voice to open the door lock on their house. So there's just a couple of examples of things that are emerging in this world, and it's only going to get more and more as time goes on. On the middle top where it says man with dog, there's mama. That's an example of, it's called an Echo Show. And it's a device that it has drop-in capabilities. So there's a security privacy issue that goes along with it. But for families that are incredibly concerned about somebody who's aging at home alone, this allows you to just drop in on that person and say hello. They don't have to answer the call. So if you're going to FaceTime somebody, they would have to answer the FaceTime call. This allows for just a drop-in mechanism. So it's very cool, and it's come in handy in a number of clients that we've dealt with recently. So what do we do at North Dakota Assistive to help people get those devices in their hands so they can remain independent at home? So again, I said we deal with people with all ages, all disabilities, including those feeling the effects of aging. We serve across the state of North Dakota. We have offices in Fargo and Bismarck, but that doesn't mean we're limited to those spaces. And the better we get at doing things virtually, like through Zoom and Teams, the better we'll get about serving all the people in North Dakota without trying to add 1,000 new staff in every community across the state. We have some other ideas on how we can try to get into rural North Dakota and serve more people. Our main funding comes from the feds through what's called the AT Act, Assistive Technology Act, but we run several other state and federal contracts as well. So why do we do it? Well, mostly because it's fun. No, I mean, we believe, like AARP does to its core, that everybody has the right to remain independent in their own home as long as they possibly can do so safely. So these technologies, these visits, these things that we can provide basically allows people to stay at home and gives them a choice. How do we do it? Okay, I'll try to get through this quickly because I'm already at 12 minutes. I'll go as fast as I can. We do it by helping people find the right device for them. So we talk with people, come in, we talk with them, find out what their needs are, and then we have these showrooms full of devices. We can access YouTube videos, whatever, and we can demonstrate to them how they work. So you're not randomly going to Walmart or shopping on Amazon and just giving something a chance and spending money on something you're not sure is going to work. We help you decide and help you figure out if it's going to work. This is a picture of our center in Fargo. We just moved in to a new location in Bismarck, and we have a similar showroom set up there, but we have all the devices laid out in the rooms that they would be utilized. So anything from kitchen devices, bedroom devices, you name it, we can show it to you. One of the things we have that is underappreciated, I think, and we probably don't talk about it enough, is our loan library. So 98% of the things that we have in our showrooms, we will loan out to people on a short-term basis so they can see if it's going to work. So when I talked about the person with that TV sound box and that pocket talker, he was able to try those things out from us for free before he went out and bought it himself. So they did end up paying, I think it's $125 for that TV soundbox that they liked so much, but they knew it worked for them after borrowing it from us on a short-term basis. So it's one of the cooler things that we do that I think probably is underutilized. Who utilizes it very well are like school districts on some of the big items that we have, but individuals probably don't use it nearly as much as they could. The MedReady is available. I mean, you name it, if there's something, again, if we have it in our showroom, we'll let you try it out before you end up spending money on it. But we do have some programs that we operate with that help you acquire the devices as well. So one of them is what we call senior safety. The state of North Dakota provides the funding for this. People over the age of 60, North Dakota resident, and not living in a nursing facility are eligible. Again, there's no income requirement on this program, and people can get up to $300 worth of assistive technology, and the state pays for it. We help you find it, we help you pick out the right stuff, and they cover it. Now, if there's an influx in a month and we get a ton of applicants, we do give priority to those with the greatest economic need and into rural areas. But again, anybody is eligible as long as we have the ability to provide it to them. There is a list of equipment in senior safety that it's limited to, but it's a pretty darn big list. The specialized phone program, there is income eligibility associated with this, but it provides phones for people, again, when we're talking about hearing loss, ability to project, vision, any sorts of disability that might affect someone's ability to communicate on their phone. This program helps people get free phones, again, through the state of North Dakota. It's a federal pass-through. Everybody pays a little surcharge on their phone use, so nobody's getting anything free here. Everybody's paying a little bit to make this service available, but we can get people free phones if they need them through this program. Now, the Possibility Funds is the one fundraiser that we do. We do have income requirements on this program, but it's really a last resort program. So when somebody has no other means of getting a piece of technology that they need to stay independent, to stay at home, to live their best life, we can do gifts up to $2,000 for people. And we received a pretty nice little chunk of money from Sanford about a year ago. So we've been able to increase our Possibilities grants. We did 38 grants this last fiscal year for people. We help them get, you can see the kid with the iPads. We do iPads, a lot of computers through this. We help people buy vehicles. Not that there's a $2,000 vehicle, but we've done grants towards those vehicles, those sorts of things. But that's available, and one of the cooler things that we do. We also have a fixed rate financial loan program. We do a ton of vans this way and home modifications. These are for big item purchases, and we really end up dealing with people who aren't eligible to get bank loans, or they are strapped and would end up using a credit card and paying 17 to 20% on something that they need. We are a fixed 2% rate loan, and we work with people to figure out how long we have to stretch out the payments so we can get the payments within a reasonable place for them. We started this program a while back, but in 2018, they had one financial loan out, and we got a report today, and today we now have 30 loans. Most of them are accessible vans and vehicles. 2 or 3 of them are home modifications. We bought someone a scooter that they take to and from work. We didn't buy it. Well, I say we bought it for them. We did. That's one that tapped into. We used $2,000 from the Possibility Grant to help with a down payment, and then they're paying the rest through this ATFL program. So we have a ton of ways we can help people access the technology, as well as having that technology available. So we consider ourselves a one-stop assistive technology shop. When people come in, because we talk to them and we try to figure out what their needs are, they rarely just utilize a single program, because you can imagine a loan, they borrow a device, they want to get it, they might not have the ability. So then we work through Possibilities, but so all these things connect. And then, we work with HCBS, we work with Aging Services, we work with Alzheimer's, we work with Parkinson's, and we try to find people and connect them to other organizations if they need those as well. And there is our information. And for those of you in Bismarck, we just recently moved our offices. I can't believe I didn't put it on this slide. But if you go to our website, our new location will be on that website. We moved into a building just north of the new Cashwise. It's right across from St. Gabe's up on Coleman Street. We're excited about it. Our old location was on the 2nd floor, and you had to take an elevator. We had a ton of people who had difficulty with mobility just getting to us. So now we're literally 3 steps inside of an outside door on the main level. So we're excited to have people come and visit us. So that's North Dakota Assistive. And what I do, I did 20 minutes. My apologies. That's about 6 minutes more than I was supposed to take.
Well, Mike, we planned for you. I mean, we have some experience with you.
I get it.
And so it's part of it. But a lot of great jam-packed information from both you and Melinda. I'm going to ask Melinda to come back. I told you at the beginning we were going to get a chance to do question and answer and do this. It will be very helpful if you have a question to turn your camera on when you ask the question. I know this question was asked in chat, and I believe it was answered in chat, but I think it's a question others might have. And Barb Handy Marcello, I might put you on the spot if you want to, or I can read it out for you, but I'll see if you want to ask it. And then Melinda can answer it, because I think others will have a very similar question to you, Barb, and it was a great question.
My question was whether Melinda's program has any services available for people who do not meet the financial levels she explained, particularly information, particularly, just getting names of companies or people that are reliable and that the state approves of. Can we get that information from her office?
Yeah, and I had indicated, so anyone can call the ADRL. It isn't just for individuals that may, be eligible for our HCBS services. So the ADRL has lots of different resources, and they can hook individuals up with those resources. They also have the same qualified service provider that we have, and they can provide a copy of that to anyone who contacts them as well.
Thank you.
Great question, Barb. And I can't talk enough about the North Dakota Aging and Disability Resource Link. They've done a lot of good work on improving it, making it simpler to use, making it easier to navigate, as part and due to our advocacy here at AARP and hearing from you all about that as well. And in the chat is the ADRL phone number as well as the email address to contact them as well. Others that might have questions. Are there others that have questions you want to ask? Go ahead and take yourself off of mute. I'll pause. Okay, well, you're formulating questions in case you have them, because I want to make sure we answer questions if they are there. Or Cheryl and Boris, did you have one? It looks like you might have come off of mute. Nope. Okay, they put them. Go ahead, Cheryl and Boris. Cheryl and Boris, if you're talking, we can't hear you. So if you can put it in the chat, we'll get it asked. In the meantime, Mike, a question for you. You were talking about the med management, and I referenced it in the chat as well. But the med management, the medication management devices, you don't have to have dementia to use one of those. Those could be eligible for anybody for different means, and you can help folks find the right one. Is that correct?
Absolutely. And they're different shapes and sizes, and they work differently. And I mean, again, it's this assistive technology world. If you can imagine it, somebody's working on it somewhere. It's just about finding it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was good stuff. So last call for questions, because we're about to run out of time for today as part of it. Any other questions for folks that they might have? All right, I'm not seeing any. Mike, any last words? Brief last word?
Yeah, I'll just say, the thing that I think the misconception about our program is that you do have to have a financial, struggles to be able to participate, but we help anybody find a device that'll help them stay at home.
Thank you, Mike. Melinda, anything last from you?
I would just say, in North Dakota, we're very fortunate that we have our SPED program that, that's the program that allows an individual to have up to 50,000 in assets. A lot of states don't have that. Most states only have services available if people are eligible for Medicaid. So that's something to keep in mind. And I always get a little disappointed when we get a referral on someone who has spent their money down quickly and sometimes unnecessarily. So even if you would be close to that amount, definitely contact the ADRL, because we might have some tips and tricks to, from setting up an irrevocable burial fund or something like that, where we can look at, what might be available for you. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Melinda and Mike. Great information. We appreciate you joining us, and excited to hear about options to stay safe and independent at home. For those of you on still, remember, these programs are being recorded. So if you, like me, had a little bit of trouble following along at certain points, or you're not quite sure you heard something, we will load it to our YouTube channel afterwards, and you'll be able to view it there and watch it at your convenience. Additionally, if you enjoyed today's event, you're not going to want to miss next month's discussion. This was the first of a 4-part series on how to make your house, a home, a house for life. The next one is going to be a discussion on accessory dwelling units. Accessory dwelling units are popular in certain areas of the country. It's growing in popularity here in North Dakota. They're small houses or apartments that exist on the same property as a single family residence, and you can learn more about how to do that here in Bismarck. We'll have partners from the Bismarck Downtowners to learn more about ADUs and how they can benefit families and lifestyles, and including maybe adding one to your home. You can always register for our events and find more information about our events, including past events, at aarp.org/ND events. So even if there are other events we hosted in the past and you're like, darn it, I missed it, guess what? You can go back and find those, as well as sign up for the other 2 events. We'll do a home fit presentation later on. Doreen from our office will run that one, and then we'll do one on universal design as well. Finally, before I close and get out of here, I just want to remind you, as I mentioned at the beginning, Bismarck is now an enrolled AARP network of age-friendly communities. And as part of that process, we're trying to help the city collect feedback on what's important to older Bismarck residents, especially those of you who would be on. And so, as I said, the input from, or as was said during the announcement at the City Commission meeting in May, when the city was officially enrolled, I believe it was the mayor who said the input from Bismarck residents will help shape the future of Bismarck. After all, engaged citizens build stronger communities. So, in order to help that effort, after this event, you're going to get via email a brief after event survey. It's going to ask you a couple questions about today's event, and then it's going to ask you some questions about what you see as needs and priorities to make Bismarck more livable going forward for you and maybe some of your colleagues. I encourage you to it'll take you less than 5 minutes to complete it. I'd encourage you to do that, because we plan to aggregate that feedback, share it with the city of Bismarck as they build their plan to make Bismarck age-friendly. With that, I want to close with, again, a big shout out to my team, Janelle, Wendy, Alexis, Doreen. Lyle is not here today, but a shout out to Lyle as well, because he helped with some of the promotional materials that some of you probably saw to do this. Again, you can always find us at aarp.org/ND. Have a great rest of the day, and good to see you next time.